Are you still using the same password everywhere on the internet? Is your password released by hackers? I'll show you how to find out. And let's have a chat about passwords. Do you still use the same password everywhere? Do you? You really shouldn't. I know it's easier to remember that one password, but the problem is not all websites are the same. Some are really secure and some are not. And if you use the same password with one that is really secure and you use one with a website that's not so secure, if this one leaks, then everywhere you use that password could be open for abuse. It could be a hacker, it could be somebody taking advantage of you. Please tell me you're not using your banking password in multiple locations. Let's discuss passwords. What is a password? Well, let's see what Wikipedia has to say. Password, sometimes called a passcode, is a memorized secret, typical a string of characters used to confirm a user's identity. So, we normally have like an email or a phone number that says, I am me. We can't determine that you are truly you just because you know the phone number or the email address. And that's why we have a password. A password is a shared secret. So if you give that to someone else, they can impersonate you, which is not necessarily a good thing. Well, what do we need to know about passwords? Firstly, if anyone can send you your actual password, then that is a very bad thing. Passwords should be one-way functions. If I give you the password, I run it through a function and I store the outcome. Now, I can then verify that you know your password because when you type it in again and I run it through the function, I have the same output. But I should not be able to tell you what the password was. I know it's frustrating, I know it's annoying, but the reality is that's quite important for us to be able to determine who it is. So if anyone ever emails you a password in clear text, oh, that's a big no-no. That means they're storing your password rather than the output of your password. We should not be able to take the output of the function to determine what the actual clear text, what you typed in, password is. So if you use that anywhere and you've used the same password on any of those sites, I strongly recommend you pause this video and go change your password, at least on your critical systems. Let's talk about password complexity. So, how long does it take a hacker to actually brute force your password? Now, if we have a look, 4 characters, if it's just numbers, it's almost instantaneous. Lowercase, uppercase, so there's a reason why we set it to at least 8 seconds. So this is how long that would take us to crack your password if there wasn't an additional step on. So if you try to use your phone and get the PIN code wrong, we normally have delays to try to stop this ability for you to brute force with some other security measures to reduce your ability to do repetitive checking. That's what brute force is. We just try 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and we just continue. And computers are quite powerful these days, so they can just churn through these passwords and keep trying them until they get one. Now, this is quite important that we have a large password. The longer the password, the better. So you people who are trying to do like a 4-character password or a 3-character password, and you're getting annoyed with the website, they're doing you a favor at the end of the day. They are protecting you. Although you may not like that. Now, one of the reasons why this is even faster is because we have the concept of rainbow tables. So we generally use a certain number of well-known hashing functions that take a password, as we can see here, and convert it into this hash. And we persist that hash. That is the one-way function. So here's your password, we run through the hash, and we persist that hash. If you take the most common passwords, like normal words, etc., date of births, locations, and street addresses, you will find that we will run through that password through a set of known password functions, and we then have this password hash. Now that means I can just check the hash without actually doing the function. I don't even have to do this one-way function. I can just say, is the output this? Because if I know what the output is, I can actually guess the input because I've done all the combinations of input to output and I persist those. And that is basically a rainbow table. It shortcuts the complexity because I've pre-computed them and then I'm just looking it up and I'm looking up this hash. Now, how do we get around that? It's called salting. We use these random salts and that salt adds to it and it should be different on each website. So we can use the same function with salt, which changes the password hash and sort of defeats rainbow tables. Anyway, that's just one of the reasons why it becomes easier and easier for people to hack your password. What you really want to know is your password out there? Is it? One reputable place to look is haveibeenpwned.com. You can check in here to see if your email was in a data breach, generally with your password. Now, I can tell you that I have been breached over 10 to 15 times from different websites, including LinkedIn. So, I'm not saying LinkedIn leaked my password, but my information has been breached. And when my information has been breached, you can take the password function, like here, and then they can actually run those commands over and over without the delay that we receive as another protection. Because if they get the database, then they can just run this on their own machine, and they are no longer having the additional sort of back off that we have on the phone that tells you need to wait a minute or 5 minutes. That bit's not there, so they can really hammer it, and then they can actually start to get the times that we see here. That's pretty scary if you ask me. Now, what I recommend you do is pause this video right now and go to Have I Been Pwned. There are other websites like this, and there are other places that do it, but this one is a very reputable one, it's been around a very long time. Check it out. Have you been breached? If you have, I strongly recommend you update your password today, because your password is out on the internet. Now, let's assume it is on the internet, as mine was. Why am I not bothered? Why isn't it not a big deal for me? Well, the main reason is that I do not use the same password on all the websites, and I strongly recommend that you don't as well. Because one website is the weak link, as I mentioned before, and once it's out, it can be used everywhere. If you're using your banking or credit card or some other things, your Gmail, people can log in, read your emails, send emails to other people pretending to be you. What do? I actually have a random password generator, and I use a password management system. So I have a different password on every website, and each website that I use has got a very long password, normally like 12 to 18 characters of randomized upper and lowercase and symbols, things that are not memorable, okay? So I cannot actually remember these passwords. Some people have memorable passwords, but that can be a bit of a problem, because if it's memorable, it's potentially easy to brute force or just easy to guess. Now, if I can look you up on social media, I can see if you have a dog, if you have children, and you can see their birthdays and their age, date of births. Like, these are the sort of common passwords that people use. And I strongly recommend that you don't use these, or you change them to use a random password generator and then use a password saver. Be that the one that comes in the operating system, because Safari and Chrome do offer password saving. I prefer to use a service which is a cross device, because I have my passwords on my phone and on my laptop, etc. It needs to be very easy to use. So I want one that has a nice plugin for a browser that will auto-populate them when I get to the website, and I only need to remember that one master password, which gives me access to all my other passwords. That password is only used with my password manager. So I've got one password to remember and the rest are auto-generated. So what are your options? Well, I'm going to recommend a couple of options, but I'm not doing a review of the different services. You can pick the one which is best for you. If you'd like me to do a review, ask in the comments. But I've been using LastPass for some time. This is LastPass. It does have a free option, so why not do the free option? They did have a hack in about 2015, but since then they seem to be pretty good. I think it's one of the biggest ones, and it's been around a long time. It's got syncing and good integration into iOS that I can use it inside apps as well. When I go to hit the login, it populates the username and password as well as using it inside my browser. I've been using LastPass for a while. Not only has it got auto-generated passwords, good integration with the operating systems, and being iOS, Android, Windows and Mac, Chrome plugins, etc. It also has secure notes and some other stuff. I do use a paid offering, but they do have a free plan that allows you to sync your passwords across multiple devices. I haven't checked the offerings for everybody else, but if you're not using one, maybe check it out. These services, some of them have family plans, personal plans, and business plans that you can share your passwords with a bunch of other people. You can also have a security mechanism that you can have emergency access so someone else can do it. The primary takeaway for this video is do not use the same password on multiple sites. You should have a unique password for each site. Please. I use it, but I also have friends who use other services, for example, 1Pass, which appears to be just as good. I haven't tried that one in any major detail, but I do have several friends who swear by it. I am thinking about trying a different service, and this is one that I am considering, and I'll show you another two which I'd also consider. Dashlane is one that's been around for another while and it's been relatively tried and tested. It could be useful for you too, as well as Bitwarden. Now, this one is interesting because it's also open source and you can get in and look at the code. Most of them are closed source, but this is open source. So I like open source, so I might actually try this one out in the future. But for now, I'm using a password manager called LastPass, and I recommend that if you don't have one, to try it too. Now let's be clear, this is not a sponsored post. I have no affiliate links or anything. I just want you to be more secure on the internet. I hope you find this useful. I'm Darren Rugged, and have an awesome day.